WHP 580.
All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Welcome back. Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions, 540-0580. Leslie, I know you've been holding patiently. Let me get right to you. But I want to remind folks here, at 3:30, I'm going to be over in Lemoyne at the tobacco company smoking a cigar or three. So if you would like to stop over and smoke one with me, I would appreciate that. In fact, the way this came up last week, I mentioned my favorite cigar joints on the air. And I swear I said Lemoyne, but according to one of the owners over there, as I heard through the grapevine, I forgot to mention his shop. So I decided that I would get him back, so to speak, by piling it on. So I'm trying to get as many people as possible. What I really like to see happen is them run out of room and not have room to accommodate us. That's my plan. So if you're a cigar smoker, you know a cigar smoker, you want to try a cigar, and I'm not going to be responsible for any bad habits. So if you already have bad habits, come hang out with us. If you don't have any bad habits, just come and watch. 540-0580. Leslie. Okay, Leslie, let me recap for a second. You're talking about a divorce here, and you wanted to know if one person's income is higher than the others.
Social Security.
Okay.
They cut into the higher person's Social Security.
Well, I mean, theoretically, I guess you could have a redistribution of the Social Security income, although there's special rules with that, and it's hard to attach. But theoretically, yeah, if there's an alimony payment or the like, it might be based on the fact that one person's making more than the other.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. If you've been arrested and everything is just, you're out of your mind with all the stuff that happens when you're arrested, and later on someone says to you, this was maybe a month or two, later on someone said, where you read your rights, and the person that was arrested said, he said, I don't think so. I don't remember that I was.
Mm-hmm.
What,
Well, if you're not read your rights, under the law, basically, you can still arrest a person, you can still prosecute them, you don't have to read them their rights. The only remedy is if you get statements from that person at a time that they were in the functional equivalent of arrest, under arrest, or in what we call custodial detention, then those statements would not be admissible, and consent to search and things like that may taint any searches. So a Miranda warning is a prophylactic measure that the Supreme Court said should be given to remind a person of their right to remain silent and their right to have an attorney, but it's not a prerequisite to an arrest.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Okay.
All right,
thank
thanks.
you very kindly. Have a good day over there.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're going to have a lot of fun.
We're going to go to that tobacco company and smoke a couple cigars. It does sound like fun. I'm hoping a few of the listeners will join us. And, of course, if they don't get there today for whatever reason, then just go in, stop in there, and when they buy a cigar, tell them that I sent them. I really just want to prove to him that I have more than him listening to the show.
Well, you better watch, because you didn't ask me, so next week you're going to get... You're going to get yes the men and not the women.
Well, no, we let the women come too. In fact,
okay. Thank you.
In fact, I was just telling somebody I was guessing we probably have girls in sailors uniforms showing up, like a troop ship or something. 540-0580. Mike, you're on the air.
Hey, how you doing? My question is, I'm out car shopping for my daughter. And we're looking at a car lot that offers leasing on used vehicles, not a buy here, pay here, but a true lease, which is closed end, has a money factor, which happens to be zero. And my question is, what is the most they can charge her for document preparation? Is there a state limit?
Steve, do we know the answer to that? I don't know the answer to that.
I would say the answer is they can charge whatever they want, but they don't. But you don't have to pay that. I mean, that's a negotiable issue, and I have to believe that if you've agreed on a selling price for the car, and you're just concerned about their the fee that they charge to prepare the documents, and you tell them that you think that's too high, and as part of the deal, you're not willing to agree to that, they should be willing to negotiate that with you. I don't know of a state law that limits any fees that are charged for administrative services. But again, I think you have the opportunity to either say, we'll take it or we won't take it. So I would just recommend that you say, look, I think that document fee's too high. If you still want to sell us this car, then you have to eliminate or reduce that fee.
What do you think? Where'd he go? I think we lost him. He must have jumped off. Abe, you're on with Carl and Steve. Abe.
Oh, there. Sorry, Carl. Thank you. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. Hey, I have a friend that has power of attorney over her mother who is an alcoholic. Now, she called me yesterday asking me if I knew anything or whatever, and I suggested that she call you guys. But her mother has a live-in boyfriend that they're saying they can't get rid of him, but when they go over there, there's no food in the fridge, the house is trashed, and basically they know that he's not taking proper care. And she has called the cops. They say there's really nothing that she can do, even though she has power of attorney. I don't know, is there anything that she can do to maybe take care of her mother or remove this gentleman from...
Is her mother competent?
Yes.
That's the problem. I mean, incompetent people can associate with bad people, so... competent people can associate with bad people and make poor choices if they want.
And that's what I was under. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And you know what? It reminds me of a judge that told the story of a guy on the stand who the kids brought him into court, tried to declare him incompetent, and their main thrust was that he was spending down his $6 million fortune and had spent $2 million in 1 year with nothing to show for it. And the guy looked at the judge and said, I know exactly what I'm doing. My plan is to spend all my money so that these little rats don't get any of it. And the judge said, it's competent. It's not, it's maybe not nice and maybe not smart, but that's the way he wants to live his life. What am I going to do? He knows exactly what he's doing. And so that's the irony. That's the rub. And unfortunately, again, we've had this question before. We've had people that just are elderly or infirm for some reason, and they've had some assistance. But then they start to do things that the caregivers or the people that have been helping them don't think is in their best interest, but they're not quite incapacitated enough to usurp their authority. And, of course, none of us want to be usurped in our authority prematurely.
Right.
So
yeah, her biggest thing was her mom being an alcoholic and liver disease and all that other stuff that's going on, and not the proper care of her mother, even with a live-in. So she just didn't know if there was any recourse that she could take because it's driving her up the wall. And I think you pretty well answered the question.
All right, my friend. Take care.
Thanks, Carl. God bless.
540-058. We're going to go break here in a second, but I want to remind people, go to weekendappointment.com, get the free will kit. You fill it out, you send it in, and we give you a real live will. Lots of people do that. I get lots of those in. If you haven't done it and you don't have a will, there's no excuse. If you do have a will, I understand. But again, we'll do updates as well. So if you haven't redone your will in a number of years, and it's pretty funny because sometimes people come in and they hand me an old will to look at, and it'll be from 1984 or something like that. And obviously circumstances change, and so it's not a bad idea to, I say, about every 5 years update your will, if for nothing other than to have the lawyer make sure that the law is still the same as when it was written, and number two, to make sure that for estate planning purposes nothing's changed drastically that would make you want to reflect on it. And so doing that update is a good idea. 540-0580. Jerry.
Hey, Carl, how you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Well, I was listening to the gentleman who was calling about leasing a used car for his daughter, and I wanted to try and warn him off that. That's really generally not a good idea to lease a used car for a number of reasons. One, the usury laws do not apply. They can jack up his payments. His interest rate would be amazing. Number two, he's not going to own anything at the end of the lease period. Number three, oftentimes these cars are required to be maintained at the cost of the lessee, whichever, by the person taking the car, and they're oftentimes required to have the car maintained at the location where they're leasing it from. And a number of other problems with that. Leasing a new car may or may not be a good idea, I guess, depending on your financial situation. But leasing a used car is almost always a bad deal.
I think that's good advice.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I'm sure that there's some people out there going, what's he saying?
Yeah, I know. Hey, and by the way, Larry Boyle is a good friend of mine. I know he's a good friend of yours, so I wanted to say hello to you from on that.
Well, I appreciate that, and Larry is a great guy, and taught me election law back in the day as well.
Yep.
So, all right, my friend.
Take care, my friend. Bye.
Thank you very much. And Larry's also a cigar smoker, so maybe he'll come down to Lemoyne at 3:30 and join me for my little smoke in. And if you're listening out there and you're a cigar smoker, I want you to get to Lemoyne. Let me get the address out here so you guys know it. It's something. I got it right up here on my Facebook page.
829.
What is it? 829.
Yep.
829. What street's it on? Hummel.
State Street.
State Street. 829 State Street in Lemoyne. Okay, that's where I'm going to be at 3:30. Let's see. We got to go to break here, huh, Shane? Shane's pounding on the window, which means we're going to break. I think we're going to break. Shane, are we going to break? Shane, are we going to break? Are we going to break? You better hit the button, buddy. Well, welcome back. 540-0580. Carl Romacher. I got Steve Snyder floating around answering your legal questions as well. And we'll go. Hey, Steve, anything you want to tell people real quick? Anything you want to pitch or anything we should know about? Or
no, I think we've done enough pitching on this show today, Carl.
What? We're just pitching the tobacco shop in Lemoyne.
Sure.
Melody, you're on the air. Hi, Melody.
Hi, Carl. Thank you for letting me pick your brain. I got a landlord-tenant question, have a judgment against a tenant, and understand that she's getting a refund from the IRS. Can I garnish it?
Well, the short answer is I don't think there's any way for you to intercept those two if I had to guess.
But what about for next year, when she files next year?
No, I mean, that's what I mean. I don't think you can get in between those two. Not that I'm aware of anyhow. And in Pennsylvania, you can garnish wages. So if she's getting a refund from the IRS, she's inevitably probably getting some wages, right?
Yes.
So that's your best route. So what we would do is simply execute a garnishment against her wages.
I don't know who she works for.
Well, that's not too hard to figure out if we did a little research. And we might not even need to know who she works for so much as once we start the garnishment process against her, we may be able to force a disclosure with what we call interrogatories in support of collection.
Okay, she does have a very nice car.
Yeah. Well, Melody, how much money do show you?
$2,800.
All right. Well, my advice is I would consider seeing a lawyer and working out. A lot of times when we do collections, and I say we, I mean just lawyers in general. I mean we do them, but just lawyers in general usually do it kind of the same way, which is you want to pay me hourly, or you sometimes can pay me a percentage of what we collect. The standard percentage in the collection history is usually 50% for lawyers.
Uh-huh. So in order to get her car back, I've got to go through an attorney?
I didn't say you have to. But I'm saying you got to go fill out all the right paperwork and get things done, and that sometimes is where the attorney comes in handy.
Yeah, I understand.
And sometimes we don't even have to go that far. Sometimes we just write them a letter and they send the money.
Yeah, I don't think she has the money to send, but if I sold her car, I'd be able to get the money from
right,
it.
Or garnish your wages. I mean, that's the whole point of the garnishment process.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
All right, thank you
all
so
right.
much.
You take care.
All right.
540-0580, Carl and Steve answering your legal questions here. Bob, what's going on?
Hey, Carl, this is Bob. How are you?
Good.
I'm looking forward to coming down and having a cigar with you. That's a great thing. And I think last week, though, I listened to your show last week, and you did mention the tobacco company on the air.
See, I thought I did.
You did. My wife and I were just talking a little while ago, and I said, no, he did mention, because that's where I like to go.
Yeah,
and you actually mentioned Dave, too, so.
Yeah, so you know what? He's really whiny, isn't he?
Yeah. No, he's a great guy. I love those guys down there. I was just saying, you got bamboozled if they said you didn't mention.
Yeah, see, now I'm really mad. All right, well, then we're going to go down there, and we're gonna really give it to him.
Yeah, but I have a follow-up. You had a guy on right before the 2 o'clock that had a hospital bill that wasn't paid because his benefits weren't signed up in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he's on an employer-sponsored plan, his recourse is to go back to the employer because they have the responsibility of providing that information to the insurance carrier. So he might have recourse against the employer.
He may have recourse.
If they didn't send in the benefit form, the enrollment form, for him to be added on.
Right.
And on the general liability policy, too, there's a coverage that he has recourse again. It's called the employee benefit liability. That covers that type of error for the employer, for the administration. If they do something like a screw-up like that, that's where they can go for coverage if they have that coverage on their general liability policy.
Right.
So I just wanted to share that with you. If he's still listening, to check in and see if his employer dropped the ball on that.
I appreciate that.
You bet. I'm looking forward to meeting today at 3:30 down at the tobacco company.
Yep, I'll be there in Lemoyne.
All right, thanks, Carl.
Thanks. You heard it, people. People are actually going, so we'll see how many people we can get in there. I want to cram the place. Mike, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Hey, Carl. Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Carl, yeah, this is Mike. I had called a little earlier, and I somehow lost you. The second part of my question was on the leases, used car lease. Is the origination fee? I take it that's the same thing. There's no set state fee or whatever.
Right. There's no minimums that any of us were aware of.
Okay. And my compliments to the gentleman who called in and said, "Hey, leases, you got to be really wary," which I was. I'm pretty affluent with different things as far as rental agreements, stuff like that. But this is a closed-end lease. It is a 0% money factor where there's no interest, and you can walk away from the lease and not have it affect your credit as long as, you could turn the car in pretty much the condition it was in. And that's why it looked attractive versus something like a buy here, pay here, where if you don't make the payments, of course I'd make them for her, but let's say you didn't make the payments, then it affects your credit, where in this leasing situation, you can simply, if you have hard times, turn the vehicle in and walk away from it. And so it looked pretty good. I mean, I guess it's curtailed to how this particular dealer does his versus other dealers, but like I say, with the knowledge I know about different things, if you've got a 0% money factor and no interest, and it's closed end where your residual, once you meet your lease term, you can buy the vehicle at a set price, meaning closed end, and the walk away, I mean, I think it's a good way for her to buy it and start to establish some credit.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I mean, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. The other thing I remember about how to buy a car is my usual technique is just kind of like what Steve was saying. What origination fees? What are you talking about? I thought it was $6,000 for that vehicle. But here's my check right here. I wrote it out. What am I going to do? I guess I have to leave now.
as he had explained it to me, there was an origination fee and a doc fee, which the doc fee is $99, and I think the origination fee is $550. But then you're paying 0%. They've got to make something on their money.
Right, and that's probably where they're making it.
Getting, which is a lot less. I would imagine if you computed it out, it comes out to about 4%, 5%. I don't remember what number I computed it out to over the course of the term.
Mm-hmm.
So it seemed pretty good. I mean, who's going to put their own money out there and let you take a vehicle and not make a dime? I don't think they'd be in business that long. And the guy's been around, a long time. I bought in retail from him on some new stuff, but I had never bought a used car via leasing and that. And it just seemed to be a way to build her credit, because if you go to a bank, they want 9%, I guess, on a used car.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty high on a used car, so I didn't really look into it. So, anyways, that was my question.
All right. I appreciate it, and I'm glad we kind of hashed out a lot of interesting things here today.
Sounds good.
All right, my friend.
Thank you. I'll try and be over in Lemoyne. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to or not, but if I can, I'll stop over and have a cigar.
Yeah, please do if you can. I mean,
great.
I mean, hey, it's not that big of a commitment. Just smoke a little one.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Super.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay, who's next? Joan, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for taking my call. My question involves inheritance tax.
Yes.
no, one of my parents passed away years ago and transferred the home for the three siblings, and the one sibling has passed away. So we have to pay inheritance tax on the first one, but do you still have to pay it on the second one where they pass away?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to see how the property was left to the siblings. If everybody got equal shares and then that sibling's share is somehow going back to you guys, it may be possible that there's an inheritance tax on it, but it all depends on how it was deeded and transferred.
Well, it was transferred by my mother years ago for $1 that she left it to us years ago before she passed away.
Right. And I would have to take a look at it. I mean, what I'm saying by that is you're saying if she passed away and you guys all took a third of it?
Well, if the one sibling passes away, you have to pay inheritance tax third for the first sibling. You still have to pay it for the second sibling when that sibling dies, and then finally when the third one, and that goes to the estate, do they still have to pay again?
Well, the short, I guess I'm not following is...
Would that be, how many times can a property be...
It can be taxed an infinite number of times if it's transferred an infinite number of times in taxable transactions. But we'd have to see how it was structured and whether or not it's going to pass for tax purposes or not in a taxable way.
I see. Then I have another question, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
If you have EE bonds and you're the owner and you have the co-owner and the co-owner passes away, do you still have to pay inheritance tax?
Well, theoretically, you might, but it depends again on who the co-owner was. So, for instance, if the co-owner in the jointly owned property was a husband or wife, the answer is no.
No, this is sisters.
Yeah, if sisters, then it's going to be there's going to potentially be an estate taxable event.
So, although the second co-owner never contributed or bought the bond, you still
their name's on them.
Oh,
yeah, that's the issue. We've had this come up where people go and they put money in a bank account with their mother, and then their mother passes away, and they go, how come I'm getting taxed on the money in the joint banking account with mom? And the answer is you're going to get taxed on 50% of it. Or if it's been less than a year, you're going to get taxed on 100% of it, if I remember right.
So in other words, you'd be taxed on your own money.
You can, right, and that's why people have to be careful when they commingle funds with others, that they may create a taxable event that wouldn't have been otherwise.
But then that does prevent you from going to probate, though.
Right.
You have all the joint ownership.
Right. Well, that's right. Keeps it out of probate, but at the same time, there may still be an inheritance tax due.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
All right, Joan. My recommendation for anyone who's thinking along Joan's lines is to sit down with a lawyer and go over all these things and kind of plan them and map them out because there may be ways to avoid it. I was talking to another lawyer the other day who's writing a will for a same-sex couple. And that gets to be a problem because the tax rates are between private individuals. They're not treated as family members. So there's sometimes a lot of structuring and things that you like to do in those cases that you might not with a married couple, but then you don't have all the benefits of a marriage either. 540-0580. We'll get back from break. I think Robert Culling's going to join us. Steve Snyder's still here, and we'll talk with Lee and Joe.
I'm going to drop off, Carl, because I got to get up to the tobacco company.
All right, I'll see you there.
Okay, bye.
And those are very good cigars, and those are made locally, so those are interesting. But yeah.
Where can I get a good Honduran smoke, good Honduran blend in this area? I'm still fairly new.
You know what? Well, if you're in the area, you could go to the Tinderbox down in Lemoyne.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good cigar shop. Dave that runs. They have one of probably the largest selection in central Pennsylvania. If you're looking for a really nice, fun place to smoke a cigar, there's two in downtown Harrisburg.
Right.
Ray's Tobacco and the other one right on the corner on 2nd Street. And the name's escaping me for a second, but those guys are really nice too. And that's a fun place to just go in and hang out.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Carl.
All right, there you go. There's the history of last week, and I figured out what it is. I did mention Lemoyne, but I said the Tinderbox, and I meant the tobacco company. So now it's all been straightened out. But as a result of all the controversy that stirred up last week, I am now going to the tobacco shop in Lemoyne today to smoke a cigar at 3:30, so I'm hoping some of you guys will join me. Rob Culling, what are you up to?
Not too much, Carl. How about you?
Well, what do you think I'm doing? I'm on a radio show, Rob, obviously. What are you doing? I mean, come on now. Nothing? Nothing at all? You got nothing cases you're working on or anything?
Well, actually, I'm gearing up for a couple custody trials at the beginning of the next month. So, actually getting my writing skills down, getting my witnesses prepared. So I'm getting ready.
Good. And those, people don't realize that, but a custody case can turn into a full-blown trial. There's no jury, but other than that, they're not much different than a big civil suit or a big criminal case.
Yep.
All right, Rob, hang around and see what we can answer some questions for people here. Joe, you're on the air. Joe.
Oh, hey, that's me. I have a couple questions regarding a union situation at my place of employment. First, to start it off, I'm wondering if there's any stipulations for what constitutes fair share. A case in point where we work, we got a 2-week pay period. Say somebody's scheduled, part-time employee scheduled for 4 hours in that pay period. They're paying the same amount as somebody that's working 80 hours in that pay period. Is there any stipulations for what constitutes fair share?
I do not know. Now, labor law is a little outside my expertise.
Gotcha.
And more importantly, if you have a labor contract, a lot of times that's going to control. So the individual contract a lot of times says as much.
Okay. Employees have been complaining about this for a number of years, and evidently a new contract was drawn up that's supposed to address the situation. But now we've discovered that people paying the fair share are going to continue paying the higher rate, and union members are going to get a discounted rate. So we're being coerced to join the union, basically.
Yeah, that doesn't seem quite right.
No.
That doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things going on. But I understand this is out of your purview. So is there anybody you could recommend me to, a labor lawyer or a state or federal agency?
Well, yeah, I mean, technically, the National Labor Relations Board, right? Although they're not always, particularly when there's a Democrat in the White House, particularly friendly to the anti-union forces, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Other than that, in terms of a labor lawyer, not sure. If you want to just contact us off the air, I'd be happy to try to find you one.
Great. Okay, through your email?
Carl, Karl, at Rominger, ROMINGER.com, or you can just look me up on RomingerLaw.com or weekendappointment.com.
Great. Okay, sounds good. Thanks, man.
All right, no problem. Bill, you're on with Carl and Rob. Bill.
Hey, Bill, Carl, you guru. I heard on the radio just in passing somebody said that something like going to the courthouse because of the Homestead Act, and if you register or something under the Homestead Act, then if the creditors ever came after you, they couldn't get your real estate or property. I'll just jump off when you get there answering that. That's all I know about that.
All right, my friend. Here's the answer. I don't know of such a thing. I know in Florida they have a Homestead Act. And so, your property can be your homestead, and that's why a lot of rich people choose to put their primary residence in Florida, because it's shielded in a way that property isn't in other states. And so, for instance, if somebody dies in Florida and they use a homestead exemption, they don't have to pay. The estate doesn't have to pay any debts out of the value of the home, for instance. So Florida would be the only place I know of that being effective in, and I don't even understand all of it because it doesn't become an issue up here in Pennsylvania that I've ever encountered or I'm aware of. So that's the best answer I got. 540-0580. Call and we'll answer your legal questions here on the air. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here answering them. And of course, if you need a lawyer throughout the week, just go to RomingerLaw.com and you can find us. I've got Rob Culling here. Of course, earlier we had Vinny and Steve. So I'm trying to help you guys get to know all the lawyers in the office because they're all good guys and we can all help you. Lee, you're on the air.
Hi, Carl. How are you doing?
Good.
I like your show.
Well, thank you very much.
Always interesting. I have a question about something that happened to my grandson.
Okay.
He just rented an apartment in an apartment complex, and he ran into two snags. The first one was the cable company refused to hook him up because the prior tenant did not pay his bill. And the second one was the electric company wanted to charge him an exorbitant down monies, and they said it's because the prior tenant did not pay his bill. What's any recourse on those?
Let's see. Now, that's interesting. So the power company's going to hold
$300, which is more than they would normally, and they told him that's why.
Right, and they're going to hold it against him that the last tenant was a credit risk, apparently.
Right, and it's an apartment complex too. It's not an individual with townhouses or something.
Right, that's very interesting. I guess they could do that. I don't know. The PUC would be the people to talk to about that one.
Okay.
Public Utilities Commission could tell you if that's kosher or not. The other issue is what are they trying to do on the other one?
The cable company won't hook them up because the prior tenant did not pay his bill. So it's on a do not serve.
That I would appeal as well to them, but I'm not sure. Because cable's kind of a monopoly, there's got to be some regulation of that as well. So again, that might be a PUC question as well, since it's a regulated utility. But I don't know who actually runs the cable folks.
Yeah, and I don't know which cable company it is either. So
yeah, but it sounds like he's getting hosed for something he didn't have anything to do with. Maybe he needs a new apartment.
No, he just got this one. But as soon as he mentioned that he was regular Army with the electric company, because they were trying to arrange a time for him to go meet somebody in his camp, they dropped it.
Ah, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, but it just seems to me that it's not right and shouldn't be.
Now, we increasingly in our society, because of our ability to database and index, we're starting to hold things. We're actually going back a few thousand years, and we're starting to hold things against people. We always did, but also now back again against objects and places. And what I mean by that was back in the old days, like in Rome, if somebody got killed, they might not only banish the person, but the instrumentality of the crime would be thrown into the sea and banished, because there was a theory that there was some taint or punishment that needed to be done to the inanimate object. Well, these days, the police database and the government databases, all the incidences that happen in a car or in a house or a location or with a piece of property, VIN numbers, tag numbers, individuals who are present. And so we're seeing increasingly, like the police pulled over. I'm aware of a case, for example, where my client was very upset because the police pulled over a car she was driving, started to hassle her, and she felt very belligerent. Well, what we found out was somebody else had been picked up in the same car a few months before with a handgun.
Oh.
And so even though it was a different driver, and a passenger had been extracted somehow and had gotten in trouble and had a firearm, when the officer ran this particular license plate, the computer flagged it for him that there had been a illegal gun in this vehicle previously. And not to say that I don't think the officer should be entitled to know that, but it colored the entire encounter. And it's interesting because in the old days, the officer would have known anything about the person in the car, and it would have been just a friendly speeding ticket. Instead of the officer coming up guns drawn. And so and the poor other girl had no idea that this had happened because another family member had used the car and neglected to tell anybody about the incident with their boyfriend and blah 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 blah. And so my point is, we're now now companies are doing the same thing. If you have insurance companies take every location, they've been doing this for years, and keep a claims history on it. So even if you move into a new building or apartment, the insurance company will have a feeling about it. And now you're saying the power company's doing the same thing and the cable company's doing the same thing. So we're no longer just making business decisions and extending credit or risk on the people, but also saying there's something inherent about this location that we're going to keep track of. And I guess the cable company's argument would be, hey, we've noticed that if we have an apartment where somebody doesn't pay one time, magically, more likely than not, that's the same one where they're not going to pay again, and there's some correlation between the cost of the rent and how selective the landlord is or the section of town or whatever it is. But statistically, it bears out that the location has some significance, so we want to make a business decision based on it.
I ran into the same problem when I moved where I am now and got a new phone number. I had the satellite people didn't want to deal with me because the phone number belonged to somebody who apparently didn't pay their bill. But we got that straightened out.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
It's amazing. Too much information, maybe.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck with that.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, you take care.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
I think at least sounds familiar to me. 540-0580. When we get back from the break, we'll talk to a few more people. And don't forget, about 3:30, I will be in Lemoyne at the Tobacco Company at State Street smoking cigars, and I'd like as many of you as possible to join me. Well, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. I'm just reading an article on myself. Chicken nuggets, how bad are they? Some kid, a 17-year-old British factory worker, was rushed to the hospital when she collapsed, struggling to breathe. During the exam, doctors were stunned to learn that Miss Irvin had never in her life eaten fruit or vegetables. Instead, she had eaten almost nothing but fast food chicken nuggets since she was 2 years old. Well, 15 years of nuggets, and I don't know if that's related to her collapsing or not, but can't be good for you. Cannot be good for you. Jim, you're on with Carl and Rob.
Hello?
Jim? Yeah.
Okay, this is, my name is Jim, and my brother and I inherited a property from our parents. And I wondered what would happen if either one of us passed away.
Well, it depends on how the deed went. Theoretically, and I say this theoretically, a lot of times people go, well, my dad left me the property with my brother, I'm like, well, would you go to the courthouse? Did a lawyer get involved? They're like, no. We just sort of took it over and paid the taxes in Dad's name. I'm assuming that it got deeded to you guys somehow.
It's both our names are on the deed.
Right, and you're probably either tenants in common or tenants with right of survivorship. If you're tenants in common, then you or your brother's estate would continue to own their 1/2 interest. If you're tenants with joint right of survivorship, whoever dies, the other guy takes the whole thing.
Well, I think it's the former here. If my brother did pass away, could his estate force a sale?
Well, if it's tenants in common, then absolutely.
They could. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Thank you.
Of course, I'd want to actually see that deed just to be 100% sure. Robert, you're on with Robert and Carl.
Hey, Robert.
Hey,
Carl. This is Robert. I've got a question about a pension that could possibly be due me from an employer. I retired recently after 23 years with the company, very large international company. And one of my options was to take my pension as lump sum, which I did and have invested it myself. However, I also triggered Social Security, which I'll start collecting. And I received a notice from the Social Security Administration that there may be a period of time when I worked that I am also owed a rather small monthly amount from the year 1993. And I did work for the company then. I did have some broken service with the company and then returned to the company, and they grandfathered all my time and ended up with 23 years. They handle their pension through a third party, or a second party, actually, Vanguard, and they have provided me with very detailed calculations as to how my lump sum was calculated. Interestingly, the only year that is not taken into consideration in the calculation is 1993. And I'm wondering if what my next move should be to try to determine whether indeed I have this kind of little donut hole period of pension that apparently was not calculated when my lump sum was calculated a few years ago when I left.
And I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. And I've obviously tried to talk with my company, and they're quite nice, but they're going very slowly, and I suspect that the last thing they want to do is pay me a couple of $100 a month for the rest of my life when I've already requested lump sum.
Right. And I'd be interested in seeing what the we look at the pension manuals and see what the understandings were.
Okay.
And what the rights and what you vested in, et cetera, et cetera. But it's basically like a contract at the end of the day. So you either are entitled to it or you aren't. And if you get a clear answer, then you know.
Okay. Well, I'll just continue to pursue it with them and possibly Vanguard.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, my friend.
Thank you.
It's the best answer I can give you off the top of my head. Let's see here. Joel, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yeah, Joel.
Carl, quick question. I own a property up in north central Pennsylvania. I received a postcard from the power company saying that they were going to do some tree trimming. If you have any problems or questions, call this toll-free number. I called it twice, left my name message, no response. I called a district manager, forestry manager, left a message, no response. I go to my property, and there's 4 unnecessary trees cut down. What can I do?
Well, you may have a claim against them. All depends on the right-of-way understanding. So you're going to want to get a copy of their right-of-way and what the agreements are in there.
Well, I understand that, but some of these trees were, 20, 25 feet away from a power line.
Right. Well, that's what I mean, and I don't know what the agreement in that right-of-way agreement is.
How do I find that out?
That's going to be recorded. So somewhere at the courthouse, you're going to be able to find the power company's right-of-way across your property and the terms and conditions that were either agreed to or gotten by eminent domain.
Okay, I understand this job that needs to be done if it's necessary, but some of these trees were completely solid and they didn't look like they were diseased to me at all.
Right, and they may have got an overzealous cutter, so.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, well, I thank you for your help. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, my friend.
Have a good weekend.
All right, good luck. 540-058, Carl Rominger here answering your legal questions. Of course, I'll be back next week from 1 to 3. I'm going to be in Lemoyne at the Tobacco Company from about 3:30 to 4:30 today smoking a cigar. So if you're listening, I would love for you to join me. Oh, there, Chad, I'm going to have to get you next week, my friend. Rob, thanks. Talk to you later. Hey, guys, tobacco company here in about half an hour, just enough time to drink a soda and get over there and start smoking a cigar. And if you need to find me throughout the week, go to romingerlaw.com. But again, come smoke a cigar with me in the next few minutes. I'll see you guys in Lemoyne. It's over on State Street. If you need help finding it, just Google it or look it up on your iPad.